So welcome to the last video of this session about car lease agreements. I put together this super fancy spreadsheet so we could go through the numbers and understand how the money factor and various other factors come into play here in calculating your monthly payment, and so you can see everything on the fly. So before, where I was just showing you the lease agreement document, now we can actually put different numbers in here and see what happens. The first thing that I want to highlight is the lease charge for when you lease a car. This is basically the interest you're paying on the depreciation amount, which in essence is a loan. The depreciation amount is a subtraction of your capitalized cost minus your residual value. So this is the amount of money that you're expected to pay over the term of the lease, and then they charge interest on that, and this is the total amount you pay. So one thing I think is very interesting is this lease charge and how it's calculated. So let's just say, as an example, we were to pay off this entire $12,688 right up front. It's not very likely anyone would do that, but let's just see what happens. And it's actually going to be $13,900. $13,950. I'm just trying to get it as close as possible. Okay, so if we were to pay off the entire depreciation amount up front, you can see here it's zero, but you can also see that interest is still there. The release charge and rent charge is using residual value as part of its calculation, and that's why you're getting some interest even if you pay off the entire amount. So that's one thing I wanted to highlight for you. The second part of that function does use residual value, and the higher the residual value, the higher the lease charge. However, that is somewhat offset because now you have a lower depreciation amount, and it ends up lowering your monthly payment. So here you can see the lease charge is $4,801 and our total cost is $13,880. So let's lower this back down again. And now you can see our lease charge is lower. And our monthly payment is lower. So it's a balancing act between residual value, your capital cost of the car, and the lease factor. So I thought it was interesting to kind of do this exercise and see the different numbers and how they work out. This is also pretty nice because you can kind of preemptively select your monthly payment. If these are your numbers and your term, this is the cost of the car, including all the dealer fees. So you can say, well, I can only afford $350 a month. Basically what you do is you just go, okay, $350 a month. You just basically start putting in down payments amount until you get to $350 a month. And if this is close enough, so then going to the bottom part, so we need $1,600 down in order to get our monthly payment to $350. But we also have to pay taxes on that, and we also, as part of a lease, you end up paying your first monthly payment, your title and registration, and so your total cash required would be almost $2,100 in order to get to that $350 a month. So on the second part of my super fancy spreadsheet, I created an equivalent calculator if you were to buy the car. And at the last half of this is a comparison between leasing and purchasing and the different values there. So what I want to do is create in equal terms on both sides. So let's say, okay, so cash required 1750 for the lease, and if we were, let's say we're considering buying the car, and we also do 1750. So a cash or a loan to purchase a car, you can actually have a much longer term than just 48 months or 36 months for leasing. So let's put in 60 months. And then here's the cost of our car minus our down payment. And this is the same. This is actually a little bit higher than the lease because we have to add in sales tax, where on a lease the sales tax is done monthly. So we end up with a monthly payment of basically $415 a month, which is higher than your lease car. And that's typically why leases look so attractive, because your monthly payment is more to buy a car. However, if we look at the financial comparison over the long term, so what I did is I take the cash that we're paying up front, I added in the amount of interest on the loans, and then added that all up for a total loan balance. So this is how much money you're going to end up paying over the life of the car. However, at the end of this lease, you have no vehicle equity. You turn in the car to whatever dealer you purchased it from, and they then have the equity. When you purchase a car, you have the equity. So taking all of the numbers, basically summing all of these numbers up here, you're getting a total of money lost on the car at the end of the lease. I call it money lost, money spent, but basically this is money, cash out of your pocket. So in a lease car, you're spending about $18,000, $1842, to lease this car for 4 years. If you were to just purchase the car instead, mostly because of the lower interest, you're going to save almost $2,000. And then finally, the nail in the coffin for me as far as leasing or purchasing is at the end of the lease, you'll have some equity left in the car. And the reason it's not this full amount is because, let's say we turn the car in at 48 months. However, we did a 60-month lease or 60-month loan, and so therefore there is some money left on the loan. There's about $4,000. So we take the $4,000 and subtract it from the vehicle equity, and that's what we end up getting as a real cash back at the end of your purchase lease, you can call it. So hopefully this kind of helps you shows you some of the numbers, understands how this money factor and the lease charge actually works, and you get a better idea of the differences between leasing or purchasing a car.